What's up everyone, my name's Ollie. This is my first video in a series or channel that I'm going to call IT Career Helper. The point of making these videos is to help people start their career in IT, further their career in IT. It's going to be a combination of career advice, technical help, how to prepare for interviews, that kind of stuff, just to help people progress in their IT careers. I've been working in IT for about 18 years. So I've got a fair bit of experience. I've done a lot of different jobs, from consultancy, technical roles, management roles, and I currently work as a consultant doing Microsoft Azure stuff. So my intention is to try and get some of that knowledge out onto paper or video, hopefully share it with some people. I've spoken to a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends, a lot of relatives, random people on Reddit over the years, and helps them start their careers or progress their careers. So hopefully this will be of some help. So this first video I'm going to cover off getting your first job, essentially. So this is not aimed at sort of second line people who want to move to third line. It's not aimed at consultants who want to become architects. This is aimed at people who have never worked in IT before. They want their first job in IT and they want to sort of get off the ground. Maybe you've struggled to get interviews or you've struggled to get through interviews. If you want to get your foot in the door, hopefully I can give you some tips and give you examples of things that I would look for in a first time hire, um, to work on a first line desk or be an IT apprentice or something like that. So the first thing I hear a lot is, I can't get a job in IT. I don't have any experience. How do I get the experience if no one will hire me? And it's a good question. It's something that I struggled with when I got my first job. I couldn't get any interviews. I couldn't get through the door because I didn't have any work experience in computers. People were looking at my CV and they were saying, "Who is this guy? He's dropped out of uni with an irrelevant degree and he's worked in a cafe and he's worked in a warehouse and he doesn't have any credentials for this job, so we're not going to give him one." Um, so it's absolutely possible to start your career from nothing. It's absolutely possible to start a career without a degree. You don't need any formal training, and there's a few different ways that you can sort of get through that door. So if I'm looking at a CV for first line, there's a few things that I would look for, and there's a few ways that you can word your CV based on any experience that you do have that will help you to do that. So the first thing is certifications. Now, I just said you don't need any formal training. You don't need to get a degree. You don't need to go to college. You can get IT certifications fairly cheaply that will look good on your CV and will get you through HR so that you can get an interview, which helps. Or if your CV does go to an IT manager or someone else technical, they'll see the certifications and they will sort of bump you up the list. There's a few reasons for that. The first being, if you work for an MSP or you're trying to get a job for an MSP, which is a great place to start, and I'll cover that in another video, what an MSP is and why you should probably try and get a job with one early on in your career. If you're going for a job with an MSP, they require a certain number of people to have certain certifications to maintain Microsoft partner levels. So if I'm interviewing two people who've got exactly the same skill set, I really like both of them, they're both perfect for the role, one's got certifications and one hasn't, generally I'm going to look at the certification holder more favourably. It's it's not a personal thing, it's not a it's just an objective way of bringing someone on who is going to benefit the business more than someone without them. So if I need 5 people to hold a certain certification and I take on a sixth person who has that certification, then one of the other people leave, then I don't have to retrain someone. If I take on someone without the certification, I then have to put them through training to get the certification. I have to pay for the exam. So it's just more beneficial for me to take on the person who's already certified. So aside from that, there's the technical knowledge aspect. If I know that you can pass a cert, then I know you can at least cram the knowledge and regurgitate it, so you obviously are able to learn in some way, even if you cheat your way through the cert. I don't value Microsoft certifications as highly as perhaps I did a year ago, because of the recent change to them where you can now basically open book the exam. You can look up the answers during the exam on Microsoft's help pages, but you still need a certain level of technical knowledge to be able to do that, and obviously it shows you're able to troubleshoot. So it does make sense to get a certification if you can. I'll do a separate video on which certifications I recommend, but generally anything with 900 on the end that's Microsoft, so MS 900, AZ 900, they're all the sort of entry level certifications for Azure or 365. If you can stumble your way through those using YouTube videos and get certified, then that is a brilliant start, which sort of brings me on to point 2, which is self-study. So again, if I see a CV which says I've worked here, there, check out, whatever it is, but you don't have any IT experience and you want a first line job, I want to know that you care about IT and that you're looking for a career. So something that I tend to look for in first time hires is that they've at least done a bit of homework, perhaps outside of the certifications or alongside the certifications. If you put on your CV that you've got a home lab, you've learnt to install Windows Server, you've learnt what Microsoft Active Directory does, you have a basic knowledge of networking because you've set up your home router, even you've built your own gaming PC and you know the components inside a computer and you were able to troubleshoot problems installing a game or doing something like that, all of that is beneficial and will help you get your foot in the door. It's a good talking point for interviews if you can say, I've got a home lab and I've built a basic network. Um, and it's something that I'll tend to push for when I speak to people, and I always advise people to do if they haven't. Um, because, as I say, it shows that you are a self starter, it shows that you have some basic knowledge of computing. And again, I will do a separate video on how to set up a home lab and what my recommendations are for things that you should learn before you go into an entry level IT position. Number 3 is customer service. So this is something that, again, people say, oh, I can't get this job, I've got no experience. For a basic IT job, I don't care if you know anything about computers. It doesn't actually matter. If you're going onto a service desk and you're going to be taking incoming calls from customers who are saying, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, I can't do this, I need help with this, my computer's not turning on. If you've worked anywhere that is customer facing, so a call center selling insurance, again, checkouts, waitressing, anything service industry, you're in a good place to transition into an entry level IT job, even without the technical knowledge. Because if you can speak to people, you can answer a phone and repeat a script, or you can at the very least speak to people in a personable manner and help them solve their issue or reassure them that someone else is going to solve their issue, you're a million miles ahead of the most technical person in the room who can't actually say a word to someone on the phone. You know, you can run into guys who are technically brilliant but will not speak to people or refuse to speak to people. You can run into guys who are technically brilliant but they can't put a note in a ticket. You know, if a customer phones in and says this isn't working, some people might say, okay, that's not working, and they'll update a ticket saying problem with computer. That doesn't help me at all. What helps someone who's going to be picking up that ticket from a technical perspective is a bit of basic troubleshooting. Have you tried turning it off and on again? The cliche stuff. Is it plugged in? You know, have you done X, Y, and Z? How's it affecting you? Does it affect everyone in the office? Does it just affect you? Does it happen when you do a specific thing? All the basic soft skills for first line are essentially non-technical. You don't need a technical background to be able to speak to people and find out what their problem is and how seriously impacting that problem is before you escalate it onto second line. So they're the three sort of key points that I would try and get onto a CV. You want information about your certs if you've got any, and if you haven't, you should go away and look at them. You want a bit in the little about me section that says outside of work, I like to read technical news. I like to keep up to date with the latest changes in the industry. I like to build my own computers. I like to play with my home lab, and I've learnt to do some basic networking by setting up my own wireless network on my home router. Whatever it is, anything like that is beneficial, and anything like that is a good talking point against someone else who's put in a CV that just says, I want my first job in IT and I've never ever done anything towards that goal. Um, because generally, if I'm only picking a set number of people to interview, I'm not going to take the guy who doesn't appear to care about moving into IT, and they just want the money and they just want to get a nice car and whatever else. And then number three is your experience. Relate whatever you do at the moment to IT and to the role you're applying for. I'm talking a lot about first line jobs here. I'm talking a lot about sort of technical roles. This is the same if you're going for any kind of project management entry level role, a low level IT project manager, junior project manager. You're going to be talking to customers all day, you're going to be planning things. If you do anything like that in your current role, or you have any sort of relevant experience in doing that, you plan your own events outside of work for a club you're a member of, whatever it is, any of that is relevant experience here and should be on your CV. Um, I do think that there is a base set of technical experience that anyone applying for a job in IT should have, whether that's a consultant or a service desk manager, or whoever it is, any technical or non-technical role. I think there are building blocks of IT that are important to understand. I'll do a separate video on what those building blocks are, but it's things like basic networking, basic virtualization, what cloud services are, which ones are available. It's very difficult to manage a project if you don't know the difference between a printer and Microsoft Azure. If you know, how are you supposed to manage that project if someone's asking for consultants to build a VMware environment, or someone is asking for consultants to build a cloud environment? If you don't know the basic differences between those, it's going to be hard to get that role. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm going to keep it quite short. I'm not going to talk at any great length about any of these bits in mind-numbing detail. I'm not going to sort of rabbit hole on any of this further in this video. If you've enjoyed it, obviously like, comment what you'd like to see in further videos, subscribe. It lets me make more of these. And I will follow up with a couple of more in-depth videos covering off some of this stuff, and probably mostly talking about certifications and labbing to start with, and then we'll see how it goes. So thanks for watching if you got this far.